What does it mean to be a masculine man? It means the masculine is about giving, the feminine is about receiving.
Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of the Money Talks. Today I have a very special guest. His name is Johnny Cassell, and he's a prominent British elite dating and lifestyle strategist, known for helping high net worth individuals and professionals to improve their social and dating lives. He's also an author, and he wrote the book that is called Elite Seduction, and I'm really curious to get his thoughts about relationships, dating, energy, masculine. So welcome, Johnny, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Great. So I just stepped right in. Johnny, from your experience, what are the most common blockers that your clients face when they're trying to find a suitable partner?
Yeah, I think the common ones are what we know to be, the fear of rejection. I think everyone's kind of experienced that at some point in their life. It's, I'm not her type. She's not like, she looks too busy. She's on the phone. She's got her headphones in. All of these excuses that are pushing you further away from actually approaching. Something could have happened to us, right? There might have been an event that happened in our life that now discourages us from actually approaching people that we find interesting. And not just romantically, by the way, this could just be platonically, right? You might have a fear you might be in a room, like a networking situation, and you might feel that by approaching that person on the other side of the room would be beneficial for your career. But for some reason, there's some fear in your mind as to why you can't do that. Some may call it imposter syndrome. But yeah, there's many things. But I'd say mainly there's an event that's happened in your life, whether you're conscious of it or not, that is creating resistance to the approach.
So basically, you perceive that the step they are not doing is actually to approach the people they like. So this is the first blocker. They could not
Absolutely.
even...
I mean, if we look at what's happened in the last decade, right? If we look at what's happened in the last decade, we've had the Me Too campaign, right? We've had COVID, and we've also had the rise and non-weirdness, by the way, of online dating. Because in previous decades, if you're one of the small percentile people of online dating, you weren't telling your friends that you were on there because you'd be like some class act weirdo. But now it's so widely acceptable that it kind of gives us the impression that we can bypass the cold approach and get straight into the online space and speak to people through that medium. And hence why we're finding a lot of difficulty in that space, because people haven't put the effort in to learn the cold approach. How to approach people without knowing them, without rapport, how to gain it completely from scratch. And I think that is becoming the forgotten art right now.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying, because also in my experience, I work with women more to help them improve their relationships in general, but also like in relationships, couple relationships. And one of the blockers I found is that they are not inspired to spend time and actually get to know people, potential people, partners, but if they just label them very fast due to some small details from the beginning, and they're not inspired to take, as you said, this time and actually invest to know what's more deep in a person than just the appearances, how he looks, his profile, Facebook profile, and all this marketing, branding element, let's say, that everybody has now.
That's exactly it, to your point. And this is my big argument with online dating, right? What we know, the research shows that it only really works for a small percentage of people. Who are those people? People that perhaps understand attraction, they have attractive attributes already, they've worked it out, they understand marketing, they know how to put together a good collection of images that can stir up some attention and intrigue.
Exactly.
But for the most part, not a lot of us are very good at that, right? So where we excel in is actually meeting people in person. So what you just said there about my female friends, they can't look past the superficial. Well, how do you think that's going to play out when you're just solely relying from online dating platforms? You're not even getting a foot in the door. At least when you actually meet people, I hate this term, IRL, in real life, the old-fashioned way, the traditional way, the person in the queue for you with you at the coffee shop, the person standing waiting for their drink at the bar or the bus stop, you have the opportunity to put your best foot forward, right? By having a conversation, stirring someone's intrigue, interest, ask them certain questions and moving their mind to a place they would never be able to move to on an online platform.
If they can, as you said, overcome
have the courage,
have the courage to do the step. Great, amazing. I think that's very valuable what you just shared. Also, I'm very passionate, and I researched a lot about the energies, the feminine and the masculine energy. And if I would like to know your thoughts on this combination, like when men are in masculine or feminine energy, or women who are in masculine and feminine energy, how do you see that balance when we're speaking about dating and about relationships?
Again, this is something that we've seen change in society over the last decade as well. I feel like society is getting soft, right? We've taken on quite a few progressive ideologies, and I think somewhere we have to meet in the middle with it. But the byproduct of that is men are getting confused, right? They're getting confused and they're getting soft. Like back to, as I said, things that have happened. We've had COVID, we've had the Me Too campaign, we've had shaming of men that have been called out for harassment, right? So we're not using them as a reference point, but we're using them as a reference of why men are starting to retreat, because it's starting to feel that if they do take action, it's condemned, right? All women want to be approached. They just want it to be done right. Yeah. So there's a portion of men that just simply give up, right? And the fallout of that is they've taken on sort of feminine traits, right? So they won't even get selected. They won't even get noticed. What does it mean to be a masculine man? It means the masculine is about giving, the feminine is about receiving, right? So the more the more you put a woman in her masculine, the polarity is clearly going to be off, right? Because effectively you just got two masculine polarities together. And it's, there's enough of that in the working environment. And this is what's happened. We're in a space now where women have got more opportunity, let's say, right, in the working environment, and society's really driving that home. Like, go after your career, girl power. We're in the girl boss era, right? And that's fantastic. Yeah, if that's what you're going for. Now we have to look at what that means about energy. Well, to be competitive in those environments, you're going to have to take on masculine energy. Let's just say you have a relationship and you come back home with that masculine energy to your masculine man. Well, there's going to have to be some shift.
Exactly. So you need to know to manage these energies yourself and balance them intentionally.
Totally. And I've been speaking about this a lot, because what then happens is perhaps the man then retreats into feminine, which you may feel okay with him or may not. But what then happens is the woman, the alpha woman, she's going to lose attraction for that man, because she still wants to be led. She still wants to be taken care of. And the more that man stays in his feminine, the more attraction that she loses. Right.
And the more she stays in the masculine, the less he can step into masculine. So actually, some women, this is what I noticed, they complain about their partners because they're too feminine, but then they don't see the co-creation of that. Like they're taking the masculine energy and the man has no space. So this is also, like really important to look at.
That's exactly it. I'm really like shouting from the rooftops or for women that are helping other women at the moment. I've really seen a rise in femininity coaches. And I'm not one to say join these circles and go to them every week. I think that's a bit too much. But having a drop-in session here and there can just sort of remind you to fluctuate between your polarities. Say it's not to take the woman, if she is going after a career and she's had to be competitive in the working environment, that's cool. You're going to have to take on some masculine traits to be competitive. But it's a reminder that when you come home, that's a different space, and then you need to do whatever you need to do to step into your feminine. It might get to be touching back in with some hobbies that really pull that out with you. It might be having more female friends that are in touch with that space more than you are, right? It might be just going for regular walks, just letting your guard down and letting your man be able to lead.
Exactly. Actually, what I discovered, and I'm also working with women and men, but women mostly, is the reason why they cannot make this shift intentionally is because they are even too infatuated with their masculine side. But they have they're in love with the masculine in themselves, but they cannot let that go. Even if they try to do different behaviors that are feminine, they would not be able to, for real, leave the control and the men create a space for a man to be masculine, or either they reject so much their masculine side, and then what happens is they don't want to take that at all, and they delegate it too much to the men, so they attract toxic masculinity in their lives. So it's really interesting how to balance these energies, as you said, but not only from the behaviors, but also from the, like your perspective, your to see them both neutral, not to be attached from masculine or feminine energy, both for men and women. This is what I discovered. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a dance. It's a dance between both polarities, but the traditional traditional balance is for the masculine to lead, right? And our advice for the fellas, it's if a woman is, one reason why a woman could potentially be holding on to those masculine traits is perhaps because she doesn't feel safe, right? You haven't shown enough of the masculine traits to her for her to completely take that mask off, right?
Very good.
It also could be that she's lived quite an independent life, and with that she's had to attain masculine traits. Again, if you're coming into her life, you need to be able to look after her. She needs to be able to feel small, feminine. So think about it. Like what needs to change within you to make that happen?
Very nice. And about that, what do you think about this new trend where women start to earn more than men, and some men accept it, some not? So what's your perspective about women who earn more than their partners?
It's great, first of all. It's great that more money to the house, into the household, more resources, fantastic. To your point, and I think this is what you're getting at, like how does that affect the masculine? Yeah, the masculine man. Yeah. Well, he's going to feel quite an effeminated man, right? I actually have a female entrepreneur friend, and she is the breadwinner in that relationship. She makes more money, and she's very aware of this dynamic. And she said what she did to combat that situation, that social situation, let's say, right, where it's not her getting the card out in front of everyone. Yeah. It can still be him, but how they play it, they have a joint account. They have a joint account, and a percentage of their money goes into that one account. So he, in order for him to still feel masculine in that relationship, he still pays on the card, right? So it's both of their money. Yes, she earns a bit more money, but in terms of a social situation, he still has space to feel masculine about that.
Perfect. Yes, I think this is a very important approach to share and keep the energy balance, even if one is bringing more resources, and also see maybe the other's contribution to it. Because I've seen couples, for example, when for some periods the woman is doing a business, or she's, I don't know, have a very good job, and he's taking care of the family maybe for a while, when she has the time and space, to accomplish her dream of building a business. So he's just supporting her. And of course, this does not mean he's not masculine, but it's just, a partnership. Like for a while, one can be more in masculine and the other one in the feminine, and then shift. I think this.
Yeah, and I think
happen.
that's in a partnership. There are going to be areas where that might happen. But what you said there, which is important, is the shift. If you remain in the feminine as a man, then consequently you're going to lose you're going to lose attraction.
Yeah, that's very important. Not to stay there for the whole life.
Yeah.
And become, the mother of the family, the nanny.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, and so how the encouragement of independent woman trend is affecting relationships and people?
Yeah, well, I think that, let's say we move to the city, right? You move to the city, you move to London, and first of all, it's a very selfish thing to do, right? You're going after your career, which is fine. You're going after your career, you're going after your purpose. And with that, you learn to navigate the world on your own, by your own means, right? You learn how to run the house, fend for yourself. You become very independent. That's fine. That's attractive. But if there is no space for the man to help out, right? Because let's remind ourselves, the man wants to help out, right? The man wants to help out. The man wants to look after you. The man wants to take care of you. But if you've done so well, and obviously you have, right, at taking care of yourself, and you can, right? You know that you don't need him to take your bags from the car into the house when you get back away from that, weekend trip. You can perfectly do it yourself. But if you pause for a second and go and just maybe ask, may you help me with my bags? Or just give him time to step in and do it. Give him time to step in and open the car door, even though you can do it yourself, right? These are little reminders that we have to put in place. The guy in a relationship, if he doesn't, if he feels there's no space to take care of you, then he's going to lose a little bit of self-worth in the relationship. I know it sounds silly. I know that does sound silly, but really that is a thing. He wants to take pride.
Very logical what you're saying.
Yeah.
And what would you advise men who, let's say, like and start dating this type of woman who does not want to let it go? What they can do in order to, I don't know, influence the energy balance and make space for himself in the relationship?
Well, I think it's to have a frank conversation. I mean, like the conversation we've just had, I don't think you can really argue it as if it's wrong. It's factually, it's just right.
Great. So, Johnny, what do you think? Can money be a conflict subject for a couple?
Yeah, I think when it comes to money, it's something that needs to be talked about, right? Or it needs to be understood. And I think we have this strange notion that when women test for resources or your financial status, suddenly we're quick to label them a gold digger.
Ah, yes.
Right? I don't think it's the case. You know, there certainly are women out there that will take advantage of your financial stature, for sure. But for the most part, I mean, think about it. If you know what sort of life you want to live, the lifestyle that you want to have, you know roughly how much you need to make you feel safe, then you are going to behave in a certain way to test the level of resources that are on the table, right? There can be a more direct conversation, but let's be honest, we don't have them. There's just sort of a few sort of moves that are made to understand where that person is on the financial leaderboard, so to speak. So I think we need to normalize conversations around money, and we need to have awareness of maybe the games that are being played to elicit that information around you, rather than quick to label people a gold digger. Look, we all need to be better at getting more resourceful, right? It's the more resource you have, the more options you have, right? The more people you can look after. A lot of people haven't done the maths. You know, I spoke about this on an interview recently, and they've just maybe calculated how much they need to make it through the year, pay their rent, pay their expenses. Okay, all right. Well, you've got that figure. You've got that one figure there. Now think about what it is, what is the number to look after someone else? Because guess what? You have a partnership, that's going to cost you money. You know, it's going to cost you money. A pair of shoes is 400 quid. A date is creeping up to the same amount. You know, dinner date's like 250, 350. Like, these things cost money. Trips away, right? Going away for the weekend. How much does it cost to have a girlfriend? Right. How much then does it cost to look after your family right now? Right. And then how much do you need to make to put into investments and think about the future? You need to come up with that figure, not the figure that is just enough to look after yourself, because that's not thinking about bringing a new person into the equation or more people you can look after. And then when you reverse engineer that number, then you work out the sort of choices you got to make in your life to get to that figure. And then you can live a very comfortable, there's going to be less arguments in your life, because let's face it, a lot of them are about money or the things that you can't do or trying to keep up, right? You're going to be in a better situation, but we have to do the maths. We don't do the maths. You've got to do the maths. You've got to think what that number is and what I've got to do to get to that. And you can live a lot more comfortably in a relationship. You can be a lot happier.
Exactly. And I love what you're saying, because also I've noticed that my clients are very ashamed to speak about the fact that they want to attract a wealthy man, or the fact that they are interested in how much money the man is earning, because of these labels, social labels, like, oh, you're a gold digger. Why do you care about money? Of course you care about money. Like, it's a partnership. It's like if you open a business, you care about your partner's resources.
I want to see the books.
It's like,
I want
say,
to see
okay,
the books.
you have nothing. Just come with me. I'll pay for everything, and we'll share. It's like a business, right? You need to find a partner that is ready, as you said, to go wherever you dream to go in your life. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to maintain that.
And I think, if that person isn't kind of, I mean, you can bet on a horse, right? I've had friends of mine that grew up with, they weren't resourceful at an early age, as they are now, and their partners, their wives, effectively they bet on the horse, right? They were like, okay, well, I bet this guy because I can see he's ambitious, I can see he's driven, and I think this is going to be the winning horse. Right, out of all of the men, all of the orbiters, perhaps I think this is the guy. This guy has the characteristics and the traits to look after me and the family that we could potentially have together. So you've got to show those traits. You know, if you're in your younger years, earlier stages of like relationship, because you know we attract where we are, right?
Yeah,
So
this is very important to know.
yeah, so later on in life, you know, you'd like to think you've worked a few more things out. You know, you've come into some resources, or you're planning your next project or doing your next big thing to, you know, welcome in the next chapter. A woman has got to see that. Woman's got to see that. She's got to have confidence that you are that guy, rather than some guy that's just sort of coasting around, chancing it. You know, because if you're able to get very good at being charming and flirting and creating attraction, do you know what? You will land high quality women. You'll be able to get them. But the difference between you and someone that's actually figured out the whole getting the resources thing is that guy's keeping her. You're just a placeholder.
I love that. And honestly, don't men that does not be to get upset when women are leaving them, because it's kind of a sign that there are things they need to work on themselves.
Oh, 100%. I'll tell you this, like separation is always very difficult. You know, it brings up some unpleasant feelings, and it shows us the mirror, perhaps, or it shows us our blind spots, like the areas that we need to work on. But arguably, it can be the best thing for you. The best thing, really. Like, if you think about separations you've had in the past and you look at how you are a year on, you should be unrecognizable because you've took the lessons, you've took the advice, and you become, you know, bigger and greater than you once were before. If you don't, you can go two ways. You can hit rock bottom and stay there, or you can take the lessons and become, you know, awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So when you get separated, if you know how to take also the gold in that experience, and you're not stuck in the blaming and the resentment and judgment of the person, because also this is a trap. If you stay, if after a separation you remain like stuck in your negative thoughts and blame and guilt that you kind of throw on your ex-partner, and you are a victim, then yes, you can actually have a very, very bad period ahead. But if you just can
Yeah,
take the lessons and be grateful for everything you had and see what actually maybe you need to work on yourself, then it can be a great experience, life
that's
experience.
totally it. It's easier to reach for bitterness and resentment, but that doesn't serve you. You're not gaining from it. It's actually to flip it on its head. And do you know what? Go, I'm actually very thankful for this relationship. I'm thankful for what it's shown me. I'm thankful for the times that I've had with this person, the things we've got to see and do and learn about each other. It doesn't matter if someone's cheated. It doesn't matter like if someone did you wrong. It's easy to focus on that. The brain does a very good job of focusing on the negative. Remind yourself of the positives, because that will be the vehicle that gets you into that place of greatness afterwards.
Amazing. I love that. I wanted to ask you also about the number one attraction factor that you perceive that women have when it comes to dating.
Yeah, I think we kind of flirted around the subject of it, and it's safety, right? It's safety. When you look past the superficial, they start to think, okay, will this man make me feel safe? Right? I had an interesting conversation with a lady who was, you know, was at a bar. She was very tall, right? And I often when I interact with women that are quite tall, because I'm quite tall myself, so I can kind of say these things to them, and I go, just out of interest, do you ever get like baby height anxiety? Right? And what I mean by that is like, because I'm assuming that she would look for someone equally as tall as her, right? And I'm talking about, you know, those Amazonian looking women, like this 5'12", 6 foot women, right? And she was, funny enough, I've I've never dated a man taller than me. I go, wow, I guess that makes sense because you're a very tall lady. And I just go, I go, to tell me, like, what is it that you find attractive in shorter men? She goes, you know what? I just need to look at them, and I need to get a sense of maturity. I need to get a sense of that person can handle himself. Because if he can't handle himself, how can he handle me? So that's some real solid advice out there for, the guys that holding on to that belief of like, well, women aren't going to find me attractive because I'm too short. You hear a lot of that. Yes, you do hear a lot of that. But if you actually have conversations with these women, right, and I'm talking beautiful women, tall women, this is what they're telling me, right? And it makes sense. So do what you got to do to make yourself have that image, work out more, right? Get the right diet, like get the right posture going on, dress better, be more resourceful. Like do what you got to do to make someone feel safer in your presence. Don't act juvenile.
And what do you perceive the other way around? So what is attracting men in women? What is the number one thing they are looking for?
Yeah, well, we know the answer to that. It's beauty, right? It is. But look, we can't like skip that part. Why? Because we're looking for the gene to procreate, right? To hand on to the next generation. That's the whole mating game. That's what it is. But it doesn't define the success, right? It's enough to capture the attention, right? But what I will say is men will value beauty over these career-driven women, right? So, and that's the bigger and wider conversation, right? Because they want to lead. They want for them to step into their vehicle and come on their journey. It's like you look at a high value guy and he travels around the world and that he's got all these options, he's got all these resources. He may not be able to do that with someone that is very career driven. Arguably, maybe if they have set their lifestyle up to have, but they're going to clash a lot because of the worlds that they've created. If a woman is not so much into that, then she's going to have a bit more freedom on her hands, right? And the man is going to be able to lead. So yeah, it's beauty, but it's work I do a lot with my clients. The what else bit, right? And that's quite subjective. Yes, you caught my attention, but what else, right? So that's subjective, but it's all of the things like intelligent, smart, cultured. I mentioned this on an interview recently. I said about I used the word challenge, right? And that's not like in an argumentative manner. That just means holding each other accountable, right? So we all test each other in relationships. We all know where the line is, but we push, we test, and it's to actually be called out on our shit behavior, right? Because I'm working with someone at the moment, and historically, as a female client, actually historically, she's had a series of abusive relationships, right? Now, what is that? Just a stroke of bad luck? No, it's how you handle.
Of course not.
it's how you handle the situation, right? It's that person clearly has an issue with setting boundaries, right? It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to have a voice and call someone out when they're not acting in line. Why don't you do it? Probably because you have a poor self-image of yourself, probably because you suffer from anxiety, probably because you feel, well, if I let go of this person, there may not be another one. Guess what? There's always another bus that's coming down the street. There always is. What if you don't call someone out, that's when the abuse starts. Right? Abuse isn't just physical, right? It can be emotional. And they're just chipping away until ultimately maybe it does get physical. Right. But you've got to really identify those moments right at the beginning and have the bravery and courage to call someone out because they're not being accountable.
Yeah. And actually, we work a lot on that abusive relationships also with my clients. And what I discovered is very connected with their relationships with masculine authority from the childhood. So basically, if the relationship that we had with our masculine authority, and that can be mother or father, it depends on the family type. Yeah. And if that relationship was abusive in a way, so there were some behaviors, some traits that were labeled as abusive, and we want to just escape from them, and we say, no, I would never want to attract that in my life. What happens is that you get so attached to a fantasy that you will get a man that is going to be the opposite, and you just attract what you're running away from. So like this is very important to heal, like to heal our perceptions and relationship with our parents, because there is so much things that we carry on in life, and then it comes to our relationships, to our families, to our lives, and we don't know why. But this is actually one of the main reasons I've discovered in myself and also my clients, that it's really important when we speak about relationships dynamics.
That's it. Well, you're talking about those earlier experiences in childhood, you know, that stuff is going on. It's happening back then, and we don't really know the effects it's going to have later on in life, but it's slipped in your subconscious. And guess what? In adulthood, it shows up. It shows up in your relationship. It shows up with the pattern of men that you're attracting or women that you're attracting. It's showing up as that needy character that you're being within the relationship, or the distant character, right?
Exactly.
It might be that you're so it all derives mentals. There's no escaping that.
Exactly. And I've discovered some really interesting correlations between relationships with masculine authority from childhood and relationships that we have now. Like it's mathematics, actually. I've researched the cases, I've worked on my clients, and you could just like predict. Tell me about your relationship with your masculine authority from the childhood, and I'll predict what kind of partner you will instinctually attract. Of course, if you work on yourself, you can attract whoever you want and you love. Like who would you attract, what type of a partner you will attract. And it's very important to work also on that part.
It is. And I think breaking the pattern is just, like I said, like trying to identify that red flag, which, you know, ironically, it looks like a green flag to them because it's something that's familiar, but it's
exactly that's the thing. It's not a red flag. It's like so comfortable. So, or it can be, you know, a combination. Now it's a lot of buzz about narcissistic men and women, you know, the narcissistic trends. And they explain this behavior like at the beginning they're love bombing and they come with a lot of sweet things, and then they just turn around and became the nightmare. But this is also, if you look at it, it's not the people, it's us. We're doing that. Like we put partners on pedestals. Like we have these images that we create in our childhood based on our role model or anti-role model. Let's say the villain in our family, we want the opposite. And the people we love in our childhood, we want to get that from our partners. And then we create this, you know, vision, fantasy about the perfect man. And we put, a guy comes, he can sense it, like and then he just gives us what we want, and we put him here on the pedestal, and we say, oh, this guy, it's amazing, he has no flaws, he's the perfect man in the world. And then he starts to act like normally, like to show because we're whole people, right? He starts to show like the other side, and then we say, oh, this guy actually, he's the worst person in the world, he's horrible. And the more we put them on the pedestal, in order, you know, for the compensation law comes in, and they would act really bad, so to help us get into authenticity and see them equal. So if we have a very infatuated perspective on somebody, they're probably like to behave really bad to us just to help us to step out from the fantasy and come back to authenticity. Probably you've seen when a girl was too infatuated to you and you felt that she was like desperate, naturally your instinct was to treat her like really bad without wanting. Or not bad, but like more, you know, not so considerate. It's like natural. It's law of compensation. Like you're more cold, more dismissive, and as much desperate she is, the more distant and, you know, not nice you treat her. Because actually the universe wants just to wake her up and say, come on, this guy is a whole person. Take him out of the pedestal. He's just a human being.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is why guys, there's so many memes going around, where guys get excited about, when you realize she's got daddy issues and stuff like this, and all of the, pardon my French, fuck boys, will go after that archetype,
Exactly.
well, to that as well is that why does a man, chase women, or some, seems to perhaps have a sex addiction, right? A lot of that can derive from being overly enmeshed by their mother, right? Through their childhood. It can be like if their mother overly loved them, right? Showed them a lot of love, then a man can get really caught up in chasing a lot of women, right? Because he finds it familiar with the love and affection that he
Oh
once
yeah.
experienced from his mother. But what we come to learn is that a mother's love is so unique. You can't find it from a romantic relationship. It's an unconditional love,
You
right?
should not look for it.
No, no, and this is the thing. Like you're caught up in this cycle of chasing that feeling, chasing the
Yeah.
affection, chasing the love. That validating feeling, and then you just become the player. And you're caught in that cycle. So
Yeah,
we've
so
all
I
got to
think we
let
can
go of something to welcome in the next chapter, right?
exactly. Our life was just perfect. We just need to see, the blessings we had in all the experiences we've had so far, so we can empower ourselves and create the future and relationships that we really love and that are
Mhm.
conscious and aligned with our vision and mission. And I think we could speak for another 2 hours because we're very into this topic. So,
Oh, believe
Johnny,
me, many more.
thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I think this talk is going to be so inspiring for both male and female that are watching and maybe looking for a date or looking to improve their relationships. So as a conclusion, look for Johnny if you want to improve your dating quality of dating life and find the right partner. Of course, if you want to understand the weird dynamics that you attract in your life related to the childhood, I also can support you with that, with the universal laws and the methods I work. So you have all the support and challenge from me and Johnny. And thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Johnny, again for being here.
Thank you very much.